Radio Manchester. Good morning, I'm Becky Want. It's just gone 11:10, and it was meant to be a trip for wannabe future head teachers. Well, it was actually, but it was meant to be for them to experience how schools worked in deprived areas of New York. Instead, they were faced, or perhaps as well, they were faced with one of the biggest hurricanes to ever hit the United States. Patrick Ottley O'Connor, Geoff Stevenson and Julie Emerson, they all joined me this morning to explain more. First of all, Patrick was one of the people who went on the trip. He's the head teacher at the Oasis Academy in Salford. So yes, talk me through, how did the hurricane hit and what happened to you?
As you said quite rightly, we went out on the Wednesday before the hurricane to go and visit the schools, which were very successful visits, I'm sure we'll talk about shortly. And we're due to fly back, a conference on the Saturday that we organised to reflect on what we'd seen, to fly back on the Sunday evening. On Sunday afternoon we heard from BA that flights were cancelled.
Was that the first you knew then?
Well, we knew the storm was coming. We knew a storm was coming. In fact, before we went out we knew a storm was coming, but it was all expected to maybe hit a good 12, 24 hours after we were leaving. So we were feeling fairly confident, and maybe a little smug, that we were going to get out before any issues.
Pride comes before a fall, doesn't it, really?
Yes, absolutely. A good lesson for school, right?
Yes, isn't it?
And when the hurricane was then grounded the flights, really, from our flight was 5 to midnight, and at 10 o'clock they stopped flying in the evening. So we found ourselves grounded.
So you'd finished the working part of the trip.
Yeah. Again, the visits to the school, highly successful. We'll talk about shortly. The Saturday conference to reflect with the participants that were there, and then Sunday was the day to prepare, maybe a bit of sightseeing because it was fairly full on the tour. And due to come back, and around midday we heard that we were closed. So
what happened then?
Well, Geoff and I frantically made sure we could ascertain the position and to see where we were. And we checked out of our hotels. So
you had checked out?
We checked out. That was part of the process. And had to then secure hotel rooms. It was...
How difficult was that to do?
Difficult. Again, I don't want to over-exaggerate. Where we were in mid-Manhattan was a fairly high level, secure with lots of buildings. During the hurricane we had a fair bit of wind, but we didn't see the damage that was seen elsewhere. The inconvenience we had is we couldn't get a room each, so people shared rooms. The prices went up, etc. So it was a day-to-day struggle to make that happen, and we had some great support from the Future Leader team back in the UK.
So 5 extra days. You see, people are listening to this. 5 extra days in New York.
Well, yeah, 5 extra days in New York.
What did you do with it then?
Well, we spent a great deal of time trying to get home because 20,000 travellers delayed flying out, and scheduled trips that were in and out were obviously priority. So in the first instance we were looking like we weren't getting back until the following Monday, and through again some good work with the Future Leaders team back home in BA, we managed to get the flights for Thursday to get back on Friday. Well,
let's just, you talk about the Future Leaders scheme. Geoff Stevenson is one of the people who took out the party. How many went out, actually, on the party, Geoff?
So we had 26 of us went out.
26 went out. So what's all this about? You know, what was the idea of the trip?
Well, the participants on the Future Leaders programme are people we've identified who have the shared mission with us, but also the talent and the commitment to become head teachers within 4 years, we think. So we take them on their programme, they're teachers in schools, or they're people who've had some teaching experience and some management experience as well. And part of their accelerated programme towards headship is this trip that we were fortunate enough to be able to take out this group to see some of these schools in the States.
So you're fast-tracking them then, people who have the potential to become head teachers?
That's right.
So is there a problem? Is there a lack of head teachers? Is this why you're doing this?
Well, Future Leaders began in 2006. It was identified then that although there were some outstanding head teachers out there, there weren't enough, and there was a danger that there weren't the right kind of head teachers, or enough of the right kind of head teachers out there to really make an impact in some of the most challenging schools in England. So we were set up as an organisation to try and address that challenge by finding, the outstanding leaders in schools who could do with some help and support to be accelerated towards headship, to really make the biggest impact in some of the most challenging schools.
So what makes, actually, here's a huge question for you, what makes a good head teacher?
I'm actually going to pass that question over to Julie, because she's a participant on our programme, if that's all right.
Julie Emerson, yes, is with us. She's from Smithil School in Bolton. She is not yet, you're not yet a head teacher,
No,
are you? But you are on this fast track programme, if you like. So yeah, go on then. What makes a good head teacher?
A good head teacher, the one that I would like to be, is someone who has a very clear vision of where they want to be, and that would be driven by the pupils and the students within that school. So we, within Future Leaders, and something that I bought into as part of the programme, and the reason why I decided to apply for the programme was that that's something that's very close to my heart, is that, I strongly believe that all students within education, within our schools in the UK, deserve an equal chance, and that's from whatever their background, whatever their experiences outside of school, then they should all have the same experiences in school, the same opportunities, and be able to achieve. And I think that a good head teacher has that at the centre of everything they do. They're very pupil driven.
You sound like you're in a job interview. Do you know what?
I feel like I'm in a job interview.
You've convinced me you've got the job. We will talk some more. And we're talking about a trip for future head teachers to experience how schools worked in deprived areas of New York. You've heard the story from Patrick Ottley O'Connor. He's a head teacher at the Oasis Academy in Salford. Geoff Stevenson organised the trip. He's from Future Leaders Scheme, and Julie Emerson was on the trip. She's a teacher from Smithil School in Bolton, and there they were over in New York, and they went into schools in New York, and then the hurricane hit, and they were stranded over there. They had to stay there for 5 extra days. That, of course, was Hurricane Sandy, one of the biggest to ever hit the States. So can you tell me, though, if I go back to you, Patrick, why were you over there as far as the trip were concerned? How will this help people like Julie, who wants to be a head teacher? How will the experience in a school in Harlem help her?
The visit to the schools in Harlem and the Bronx, we visited the charter schools. There's a charter school movement in the States, and it really is close.
What's that?
It has a real ethos of almost like our free schools and academy chains we have in the UK, as a real ethos of high expectations, no excuses, no exceptions, make sure wherever a student comes from, whatever the background, they can achieve the highest levels. We saw some great experiences. One of the schools there in New Jersey where the highest performing students on their SATs were the highest percentage of students that went through to universities as well from any of the schools over there. So a really driven mission, and again that's very closely aligned to the Future Leaders mission back in the UK. So it was to look at similarities and differences as well really, to reflect, because some things are transferable, some things you just wouldn't do.
Well, Julie, as I said, is here. She's a teacher. Hopefully in a few years you will be a head teacher. That's what this scheme is all about. But you must have had people saying to you, oh, that's a nice jolly, isn't it? A few days in New York. Was it really helpful for you?
Yeah, hugely helpful on a number of points. As Patrick mentioned before, I went with the deputy head from our school, who's my mentor in school. So as well as myself going there, we then had a shared experience where we had the opportunity to reflect and take back things from the school that we will then implement and share with the staff in our school and put forward of how we can raise the attainment of the students in our school. As Patrick said, there were a lot of, there are obviously a lot of differences with the American system and American students and people in general that you wouldn't take back to the UK, but there are, basic similarities about as Patrick said, the mission of raising the achievement, raising aspirations, and bringing a lot of that ethos back to the school and the ways that they do that, and so a lot of practical ways, but
So
overall I feel extremely useful and really valuable.
Did you party?
We didn't party actually, because they worked us really hard, and the Sunday was the time to shop and to party, and we got a little bit before all the shops closed down. But it was
were you frightened by the hurricane?
It was the unexpected on the Sunday. Once we knew that we weren't going home, and therefore obviously it was going to be quite serious, that we couldn't fly out. Reflecting on it, we were probably going to be flying into the storm, so maybe we should have anticipated that. Yeah, we were nervous, and we didn't know what to expect. But luckily, where we were in mid-Manhattan, we were very sheltered from everything that was happening, and didn't experience what many of the residents, and particularly the poorer areas in in New York and New Jersey experience. We were very lucky in that respect.
We're about to actually talk about being happy in your job in the next half hour. It sounds like you are happy
Yes.
in your job.
Yeah,
Good choice for you to be a
Yeah,
teacher.
a great choice. It wasn't my initial choice, and so I've come from industry and into the teaching profession. And it's
Why
you
did
know,
you move from industry to teaching
I
profession?
felt that the impact that I could make on people's lives, I was previously a solicitor, and that I felt the impact that I could make on people's lives was going to be far greater if I could have that impact with younger people and younger students in school. And I really feel that, you know, particularly in the job that I have at the moment and the future career that I hope to have, that I'll be able to make that difference.
Patrick, good choice for you, teaching.
Absolutely. I mean, I love my job.
How long have you been teaching?
Oh, I've 25 years now. So I'm one of the more traditional routes, if you like, that came in and went through. And actually, at 38, I became a head teacher for the first time, which was seen to be really young at the time. But not now when I compare myself to some of the people coming through this programme. Some people came through...
Well, Julie's a lot younger than that.
Absolutely. A non-traditional route, even coming through an industrial background, or industry first of all, and that brings some great successes in, and the strength that people bring from industry. And some people come through a more traditional route, such as myself. And if anyone is interested out there listening, on the 13th of November, we start recruiting for the next round of future leaders from the north. So maybe there's some other solicitors or others, or even inspired teachers who want to take part in the programme.
Or even radio presenters.
Absolutely,
You never know.
So that's the
absolutely.
19th, so it's Monday. We start recruitment on Monday.
On Monday the 19th.
It's good to talk to you. Thank you for sharing your story. A big story it was too. This